Hello artists. Today in virtual art class we're going to be learning an art form that uses grid drawing that was developed during the Renaissance art period, and we're going to be also using another art form of playing cards, royal playing cards. And the things that you're going to need today are a pencil and a ruler and an eraser, some scissors, colored pencils, and a fine tip permanent marker. You can also use thin markers, but most times the colors are going to be black and red and blue and a nice warm yellow. So to get started today, you're going to need a piece of paper, and I've got a 9 by 12. And so what we want is an 8 by 10 piece of paper. So you're going to measure it down in a couple places. I've already made lines here. But before you cut it, we're going to make a grid. So the things that we're going to do are, we're going to make a grid on a playing card. So I've picked the Queen of Diamonds. And then we're going to make a grid on our surface. Now, this is going to end up a little bit more square because we're going to make squares that are 2 by 2, and they're not exactly square on here, so it'll elongate it, but it's a much easier way to learn grid drawing, is to make all of your squares the right size. So along your line here, I'm going to go ahead and draw it. So that's 8 inches. So every 2 inches under my line, I'm making a line, 2, 4, 6, 8, okay? And then up here, 2, 4, 6, 8. And I like to do 3 sets of measurements. That way there's a little bit more margin for error, okay? And then along the long edge of the 10 inches, you're going to end up with 5 2-inch squares. So here's my line that I'm going to cut on. But before we cut, every 2 inches, 2, 4, 6, 8, and then that's 10. Then in the middle, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So hopefully you have your paper out and you're doing this along with me. This is setting us up for grid drawing. This was, like I said, actually developed, and now we're going to go ahead and measure, developed during the Renaissance, and artists would use it for still life paintings, and they would set up a frame with ropes or large threads in a grid just like this, that they would set in front of them, and they could see through it to the object behind. And then they would make a grid just like we are with our paper, and they would draw their art. They would sketch what they were drawing, maybe a vase with flowers, could be anything for a still life. And then they would sketch it in square by square. So here we are with our 2 by 2 inch square grid. So 4 this way, 4 that way. Okay, so now I'm going to cut our paper so it's the right size. Okay, so we're getting it down here. Actually cutting off. So now what we end up with is 4 squares by 5 squares. So now we pick our playing card. Now, you pick the one that you like, but I like the way this, the Queen of Diamonds is holding the flower. Every playing card that you have is going to be different. So let's move these aside and get started with our playing card, okay? If you have this paper with the grid, this is really super easy, is to just put your card right in the middle and come down a little bit and make the lines at the top, okay? And then over the same way, fit it in there. But I'll tell you that if you do not have this grid, these are along the top actually 5/8 of an inch apart, and along the long edge they're actually 11/16 of an inch apart. So like I said, they're not exactly square, but that's okay. So then you're going to want to use a marker to make lines. So let's move this aside here, so that when you're looking at your playing card, you can see the grid, and then you're going to go from this. So I'm using just a thin line. You can also use a ballpoint pen for this, okay? So this is going to, this lesson is actually really focusing on proportion and math skills, which is what measuring is, okay? So you can see that my lines are going through here, and now my pen could be a little bit thicker and it would be okay, but you don't want to have something that is so thick that you are covering up details, okay? So whatever playing card you have, and maybe, you know, whoops, so that's not exactly on my line there. So I want to be really careful. You might want to do this in pencil first. So I've made my lines on the edges in pencil. Okay, so there's my grid, and now we're going to get a good drawing pencil, okay, and you're basically making this square here and then the next square here. So what it will be helpful though is you've got this nice line that's in here that if you can establish where that is in the grid and then use your ruler, that's really helpful. So I'm looking here in this square here, and it looks like that's like right in the middle. Okay, so I'm just going to make it right in the middle of all of the corner squares, and we're going to do everything in pencil first. At least, okay, so get that line. That's excellent to be able to. Now I made my grid lines really dark so that you could see them, but I want you to make these grid lines really light so they're not hard to erase, because this is not going to be part of your drawing. You're not going to keep that grid, you're going to erase it out. So I'm not going to draw this whole thing while you watch on YouTube. I'm going to get you started, okay? So now we've got our line. Now I see that diamond there is out here, okay? So this is where we learn to start sketching. It's not all the way, it's not even halfway, but it looks like it's about like this on either side. So sketch so lightly, all right? And then the other part is there's part of this diamond in here in that square, okay? And then it continues. So be thinking about from square to square. I might make that whole diamond there, okay? So here's my square. It comes almost all the way up to that line, doesn't it? And then in the next square, it looks like it's about halfway between. So help yourself by making your, so actually I want to make sure this looks like a diamond, right? All right, this down in here looks like it's about halfway down. So sketching until you think it looks like a diamond, right? That's pretty good. Okay, not perfect, but we don't have to get perfect right now. We're just trying to get this in. All right, so I'm in the second one, and I see part of her head coming down, like right on the edge, okay? So in the next square down here, I see it coming to be rounded, all right? So let's try to get her face in. Instead of doing it all the way here and having this kind of strange shape, why don't we establish where this big red thing is coming through? So it looks like it's not quite in the middle, it's a little bit over. and it's going to come all the way into this one over here, isn't it? It's going to come to the edge of our inner rectangle. Kind of near the bottom of it. So what if I use my ruler then and very lightly get that in there? Okay, so it's a little bit thinner up here. So try to see how exact you can be, because this part, oh, you know what? I need to use my eraser, because this is actually coming here at the bottom. Okay, so to keep checking yourself. The playing cards were actually go all the way back to China as an art form and something that they used in the 9th century. But when during the Renaissance in Europe, they developed playing cards that had royalty on them, and so it's just neat how much history there is to art. Okay, so we've kind of got this area over here, all right, and then there's this really neat part that's kind of curvy, and it comes up like that. Okay, so trying to get some of the major things in. Okay, we kind of got her chin. Here we are in this. It kind of goes to here. And we've got this part here. Let's get her hairline in. Kind of goes like this and like this over to that red banner. So it's kind of neat because everything except for the little diamonds and the Q over here is inside that border that we established at the beginning. So that's why that's so important. Okay, so coming up here and maybe making this rounded part that has the lines in it. Okay, her nose is actually going right along that line. Okay, I'm just going to do the suggestion of it. Okay, and her eyes, playing cards, the eyes of playing cards are pretty big, so this is actually going right along the bottom of her eye and the top of her eye are going right along that line. So yours is going to be different, whatever playing card you use. Okay, she's got this really neat dramatic, so these are obviously going to be stylized, a nice thick, okay, eyebrow. So you can get super detailed. Let's get her iris in there, nice and rounded, and the black part of the pupil. Okay, and we would do the same thing over here. So the iris and the pupil, okay, and then the nose, and then the mouth is very stylized. It kind of has that, it's kind of pouty. Okay, so again, just sort of sketch it in. All right, now we're gonna do, she has this, okay, we have another line here that comes all the way over here. And I'm just gonna kind of talk about some of the major lines. It looks like it's coming to this line, like right in the middle, okay? It goes straight from the side all the way up to her chin. So if you establish where that is coming, okay, then that really helps to be able to use your ruler. All right, now she's actually a mirror image. If you turn her, she's exactly the same this way. And so once you do one half of it, then you're going to flip it and just do it again. and it'll be a lot easier because you'll will have learned some tricks. Okay, this collar piece is actually coming right down to this line right here. So I'm gonna just sketch in lightly this really nice rounded piece here, okay, that comes all the way to that hair part. Then there's this place that's underneath her chin. This comes over, okay? So we're gonna keep adding in details, right? Some of the fun ones that I like in this one are this flower pattern in, I guess this is like her hat, right? First of all, I did not put in the, okay, this is why you want a good eraser. There's actually a black line there, isn't there? Along that red one first. And then you have this really nice, delicate flower. It's a clover. So I hope you have a lot of fun with this. It looks like it might be hard, but once you get started and you are looking exactly, you know, where this might be, and it looks like I'm off a little bit for where that should be with this whole thing. And I might go back and fix it, or I might just think, you know what, I think it looks nice. Okay, so making the major parts, getting the major things in. So, you know, here, this is gonna end up right here, and it's gonna head down there, and it's gonna be the other part. But we've got this large sleeve, I guess that might be, that comes almost to the top here and around. So it's sort of this kind of a trapezoid shape. And then you've got a blue part coming up here, okay? And then she's holding this flower that looks like the circle of it is here, and that made that too big. So use your sketching skills and don't draw darkly, okay? And then it has these really neat rosette places, and then she's holding it, oh, it has like a leaf, and she's holding it in with her thumb here. So just getting the shape in first, okay? And then this is coming through, and it's got like a little stem, and then she's got her fingers. So they're all kind of curving like this, right? And then they're rounded on the ends. And then her thumb. And there, it looks like there are small. So these are all details as you start to do the pen. Let's do one more thing, and then I'm going to do ink and show you how to color, okay? When you're looking at the shape of a letter, okay, this is outside of this inner thing, right? And it's going to be centered above the diamond that we established already. It doesn't go all the way to the top. It's somewhere, it lives somewhere in here. So look at the shape first. Get the shape in. Make sure it's centered. To me, it needs to come down a little bit. The center of it, to me, looks like it's right with this line coming right through it. So I'm going to try for that. Okay, so it's sort of a capsule shape. Straight lines on the sides and then rounded tops. And then it's going to end up with this really kind of cool curvy line. Okay, now I just added a little bit of dimension, didn't I, to the curvy line. So if we really like this shape, then we're going to add that inner dimension on the inside. Okay, you see how sketchy that is? And I'm not going to ink it until I like this, how it is. So I might get rid of some of my pencil, but all right, so let's go ahead and start to talk a little bit about how you would ink. if you're right-handed, you want to start over here and come this way. If you have not done all of the details, like I didn't even begin to do all these awesome details that are in mine of the checkerboard, I would want to draw those out before I start inking and not freehand that. The other thing is that I would want to add in the lines. Now, if you have some permanent, these are actually blue on my playing card. If you have some permanent other colors, blue or red, oh, my pencil's there. Okay, so add in all of your details before you start inking. But I would start over here and move this way so that you don't smear. Even a permanent marker is going to smear somewhat, okay? Now I drew that going through the lines, but I don't want it to be, now so if I had a red permanent marker, it'd be perfect to be doing these and not have a black line. But I'm going to go ahead and use black for everything. Now this is a really, really fine permanent marker. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to come around the other side. I'm going to try really hard to keep my lines as parallel as possible and the same thickness. Okay, so I'm going to come out here and I'm going to establish this part and this part and the inside of that curvy line. Okay, so taking your time and going over your pencil drawing. And it might be a really good idea to do this if you have access to a cell phone camera. Once you have your picture drawn, take a picture of it. And then when you have it inked, take a picture of it. And then when you have colored it in, take another picture of it. Because that's showing your work in progress is something that a lot of artists do, because it's really instructive to others, but it's very helpful to be able to go back and look at what your process was. So I'm going to do this big diamond here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your artwork. Okay, let's do her her head. Well, let's do a part. Okay, so her face is not going to be colored in at all, is it? Okay, I'm going to bring her, try to make that a continuous line. Okay, and I might still come over here and get my ruler and make that line as straight as possible. And then the one next to it as well. And then this is this area here. Okay. So let's go ahead and get this. And then I think I can freehand her hat. Okay. The other thing that you could do is you could do just all the major things, kind of like I'm doing right now, and then get rid of your pencil lines and then come back in and add some of the details in pencil. And all right, so let's get her hairline. So you get the idea. You are doing your line drawing, you're going over your pencil lines. Now I just changed mine a little bit. I'm actually not going over my pencil lines here. So sometimes what you drew, you might change up as you start to fill in and think, I'd like to make my line go a different way. You don't have to take some artistic license, okay? I'm gonna finish up with that. And let's do one large area in yellow and blue. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna do this. Bring that up to her face, and this nice rounded collar that comes up to here. And then there's a blue that I'm just doing this freehand now. It actually mirrors that that red one right there, and then that's a black part. Okay, so with your colored pencils, you want to make sure that now obviously I would do all the details of her face and everything else in here, but for these larger areas, I want to talk about filling in with color. So I'm going to get rid of my pencil marks around the diamond. And when you get near an edge, make sure you're not coming this way. You're going towards the edge so you don't wrinkle up your paper. Okay, let's see. Let's get some of the lines out of this. Okay, so yes, you could use a thin marker, but colored pencils are going to be able to get into some of these areas. This is a very, very flat color. It is about as dark as you can fill it in. If you think that you would like to give it some dimension and a little bit of interest, then you can. Now this red is a little bit more purple than what's on the card, but I'm using Prismacolors. This is a crimson red. I might use more of a scarlet red, or okay, so I'm coming in from the edges. Now, so you could give it some dimension like that and make it, you know, lighter on the insides, or you can completely fill it in. So maybe play with some of your colors before you get started, and then take your time. Now, I like to, you can use, let me show you here on the scratch paper. When you draw larger areas, you're going to want to always, you would be brushing, okay? And then come back in and do it another direction, okay? And then there's something called cross-hatching when you come from a different direction and you start to really build that really pretty color, okay? Another thing that you can do is, let's say that we've got our diamond here, is to use tiny ellipses, little ellipses to fill in the color, so that you're not, you know, making a line like that that's really thick, and then all of a sudden you've got that line there. You're filling in the color with small little, almost like little scribbles, okay? And you're going up to the edges, and you're filling, okay? That's another way to do it. So that is how I would do, if we're going to make this really dark, is I'm going to take little ellipses, okay? I'm basically making little circles as I go around. And I'm staying inside the lines, obviously. We're trying to make this very exact. Oops, there, I went out. Okay. I'm going a little bit faster than I would like to, just for the sake of the YouTube, but that gives you an idea there, okay? So I'm not sure I really like that kind of making it look like it's actually popping out off the paper. I think I'd rather like it to be a really flat, dark color. And I am seeing something that I forgot here, this wonderful shape here. And this comes right to her hairline and about down to here. This black here. Now, let's talk about black. Yes, you could use a marker, or you could use a black colored pencil, okay? And I would want to, before I started coloring that in, I mean, I know I drew it really darkly. This is actually a little bit too thin of a permanent marker. Might use something that looks a little bit thicker, so you've got more of a line. So it's up to you if you want to fill this all in, okay? So I am going to show you a couple ways. I am making like brush strokes with my pencil and trying to fill this in to a certain level of blackness. that is even. I started dark here, but now I'm coming all the way down here. Okay. Now I might start in here, right on the edge here, and start that rounded thing and start to fill in. So it's up to you to decide how stark you want your colors to be. Do you want them to be a little bit lighter and not so dark? Because with colored pencils, you have that option. If you're using thin markers, it will be absolutely a very vivid dark color. But you see how I'm filling that black in, okay? And you can get a pretty dark black, but I'm using those little circular motions again, coming all the way up. Yellow is okay, so in here, I would probably suggest using, filling it in with yellow first, and then coming in and using a black pen to do the details here around your yellow, okay? So easier to fill that all in with yellow, right? And then to draw the details on the top. Or let's just say, let's go ahead and add some details here, okay? We've got what's coming underneath her chin. And then there's a really thin black line or underneath here. And then you start with that wonderful checkerboard, and actually there's like a line pattern here. I would not suggest freehanding it like this. You know, draw it out first. But so if you have done all your line work, so you've got this wonderful, okay, it's got three things in it, so you're going to want to separate this into 3 things, and you're going to have to play with that a little bit.